the name of your company is Leadership, correct? Okay,
Mhm.
that's what I thought. All right, Henry, I think what am I missing? Nothing. Okay. It's been a couple of weeks. Okay,
I
we're good.
understand that.
It's out of sorts. Yes?
Yeah.
Oh, we're live. All right. It's the way it always goes. It doesn't change. We've now been doing this for 5 years, and I still tend to mess up the beginning every time. But it's the way that it goes. So, oh, the beauty of live. Anyway, good morning, everybody. Nikki Burnett here, Taste Life Nutrition Radio and podcast streaming live on KUHSdenver.com. Where this is our 5th year. We are celebrating 5 years. It was last week, but I took last week off. Just to continue my little bit of downtime. But I can't believe it's been 5 years. It's been so fun meeting amazing people who are doing amazing things in the world, like Emily. Emily Hawkins is with us today. She is the founder of Leadership, and we really connected because it is all about the health of your business and the health of your body, and you have to have both. And I'm going to tell you, as an entrepreneur and then a healthcare provider, sometimes it's hard to connect those things. And I can talk it and I can tell people what to do, and it sometimes is a real focus to go, okay, Nikki, step back and take care of yourself, right? And take care of your business. And the world is not going to end if certain things don't get done or whatever it is. Anyway, Emily is here to help us to look outside of maybe what we know and what we can do to, as we're building a healthy business, also build a healthy body and make sure that the two of those are coming together. So, Emily, thanks for being here.
I am so excited to be here as well. And I love what you do as well. And we really connected the first time we met. I think I could have talked to you for like 2 hours. It was so fun.
Well, this is our opportunity. It's an hour, but we can do another hour another time. But yes, we did have a really good conversation. So I've been really excited to have this conversation today. I don't think that I said the name of your company, which is Leadership. Such a great name for a company. But we want to dig in and get as much information from Emily as we can. But first and foremost, as always, and as we've done since the beginning for 5 years now, as we start this show with gratitude. Gratitude can change the world. I fully believe that. And so, Emily, what are you grateful for?
Oh my goodness. I love that you start life this way every episode, just because I start every morning of my life with this. And it's funny because I don't know about you, it's always the simplest things. And for me, it's health and family. Just having my health and having my family is really what I'm most grateful for.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. And it sounds simple, but it's not, right? Not everybody has that. Not everybody can be grateful for that. And so it's a beautiful thing because those are the things that are the closest to us. If you're not healthy, and we talk about this here a lot, if you don't feel good, you can't do what you're put here to do. And we have to feel our best to do our best, to a degree, right? And we want to feel good, so we have the motivation and the will, because I fully believe God put us here for a reason and a purpose, and we are here to fulfill that to the best of our abilities. So, it's not simple. It's a big deal. So I agree. What am I grateful for today? I am grateful. God, same thing. There's so many things to be grateful for. Truly, I have a lot of thoughts going on right now. So let's see if I can slow down and actually have a thought come out. My word of the year, I've talked about this, I think, every year from the beginning. My first word of the year was the first year we did this show, just by coincidence or by God's hand. You take it how you want to. But the first word was truth. This year is listen. And truth has sort of been has sort of been the theme throughout the show, right? Throughout the years. For me this year, it's listen. You know, I've kind of gone through these iterations of growing the business and doing all these things. What I'm learning amazingly is to sit back and to listen to what God's will is for me. And I'm still working on it every day. I'm like, oh, what am I doing? I don't know. But I'm watching as he's working. You know, the best thing about life is the ability to look back and learn from what has happened, whether good or bad. And a lot of lessons that I've learned over the last 10 years of my business, and then of course before that as well. And moving into this place where I didn't know I was going. And it's always that God has the plan. It may not be your plan, but there's a plan. And so that has helped me in watching, especially this last year, watching things sort of move into this direction where I'm collaborating with physicians and I'm helping them with their patients, and still doing my own business, and you know, creating these relationships and these partnerships has been amazing, and has catapulted my knowledge, or has shown me how much I don't know. You know, you can take it however you want to take it. But it is this fascinating place that I'm so grateful for. Just really being able, at least I'm trying to just listen. And so that's what I'm trying to do. So that's what I'm grateful for. I was grateful for the time, a little bit of time off to chill out, to relax, see family and friends over the Christmas holiday season, and now we are in and full bore. So here we go, 2025. I have a lot of expectations, big expectations, and pray that we get through it well and in a better place.
Oh my gosh, you made me think about something that you may have heard about. It's the 4 stages of learning that we go through. And the first one is unconscious incompetence. And what you just described about these doctors was your unconscious incompetence, right? Where you're like, oh, I didn't even know that I didn't know this thing. And I love that your word is listen, because what I'm hearing is that you are giving over to God your conscious incompetence. And you're actually opening yourself up to the second stage, which is conscious incompetence. And you know, when it's like, I have a question, I wish I knew more about XYZ, I don't know how blah 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 works. You're actually saying, okay, I'm open to learning. When you're unconsciously incompetent, you're actually not open to learning because you just don't even know it's there. But the precursor to that, the building block, the bridge, I would say, between unconscious incompetence and conscious incompetence is listening. And so you just said, open my heart and fill it so that I can serve more people. That's it. That's exactly what you said. And I can't wait to see you do it this entire year.
I love that. And thank you so much for that. It's an interesting thing because, you know, people can tell you all day long, just listen, just sit back, just open your heart, just do these things. And you're like, okay, I'm trying, I'm talking to you. What does it even mean? Until you kind of, the light starts to shine a little bit more. And I don't know if it's just, I just kept asking for it or kept praying, or I have no idea. But you know, that's where I have to go, okay, it's all in God's plan. And so that's the learning experience for me, is moving through it. I had to learn through the hard stuff. There's still going to be hard stuff. But now I'm starting to see it, and I'm starting to feel it, and move into the experience of just sitting here and saying, okay, you move me, and I'm just going to go where you tell me to go.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a level, I mean, that's faith, right? That's faith. That's I heard this great definition recently that I loved of courage, and it's fear walking.
Oh, yeah.
And I just thought, how true is that? Like, you don't know, you don't have anything saying that this is going to work, or maybe you have something holding you back, but you do it anyway. You move forward. So it's fear walking.
Yeah.
And I hear what you're saying, and I actually hear that there is no fear, that you're just very open. And I feel like so many of us are waiting for, I mean, like, I think about like the Bible and how there's like burning bushes and stuff. And
Yeah.
maybe, I guess if you're in, you know, maybe California right now, those poor
Oh,
people where
man.
everything is on fire. It's
Mhm.
absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a sign or anything. I just think that's horrible,
Yeah.
horrible circumstances.
Mhm.
But I think we're all waiting for something giant like that's going to knock us over.
Mhm.
And that's not actually how it happens. It happens in whispers and small conversations.
Yes. Yeah.
And if not looking and to your point, listening, you'll miss it.
Mhm.
And I think it's going to be, I think when we die, we get an opportunity to see the version of ourselves that we were put here to be.
Mhm.
And then we potentially get actually, I told you about this here and here and here. And you either missed it or you saw it and you went with it, right? And so I would encourage anyone that's listening to this to open yourself up to the small things, because they're really sharing with you the direction that you should be going. It's amazing when we stop and really look how much is right in front of us that's pointing us in the direction that we're supposed to go.
I so agree with you. And what's fascinating too is going back to, you know, that hindsight, you know, the hindsight's 2020 is when even, you know, while we're still here. So yes, I think we learn so much more when we leave this place where we are now. But I mean, that's what this place is for, is that learning period and education, so we can continue to move on, right? But now, even now, I can look back and say, oh, I so missed that. But now I get it, right? So now I hear it, now I see it, and it helps me now. And I'm like, man, wish I'd have caught it then, but that's okay. You know?
But you did catch it, and you probably caught it at the right moment. You connected the dots when you were supposed to.
Yeah.
It's just really fun when that happens. It's like, oh, that was right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love that.
Fascinating stuff. Awesome. Well, I'm excited to jump in. I love to start with, you know, giving a little bit of your story, or however much of your story you want to give to that brought you here. My favorite thing about this show is the people we bring on have a story. Everybody has a story, but it's a story that brought them to this place you are now, to serve others, to give, to love, to create, to co-create, right? All of these things that brought you to this place. And there's so much more that we have to come. But I would love for you to share your story, and then we'll just go from there.
Most definitely. So I was in the corporate world for 15 years. When I turned 30, I was pregnant with my first child, and I was promoted to leading people. And I find it fascinating that both of those things happened in parallel, because there's so many parallels between parenting and leading people that I had no idea. So I just thought I was going to be the best leader ever. I don't know why I thought this. And the unconscious incompetence in me was strong. And so the very first person that was on my team was just this hard worker. He was a former server from a restaurant. Like, he was an engineer, but he had been a server and a bartender. The only reason I mention that is because servers and bartenders and anybody in the restaurant industry you want to hire, because they understand sense of urgency. They will work circles around people. They read people well.
Yeah.
So anyway, my first employee, actually a lot similar to my first child, got me really gutsy into thinking that I knew what I was doing and that I was somehow in charge of this leadership piece, which I was not, neither with my child. And my second child, God has a sense of humor, is all I have to say about that.
That's the truth.
So my team started to grow. The business that I was a part of, I was a part of a small startup at this point in my career. And the company grew from, I was employee 60 and I was the department. And then we ended up growing to 25 people in 3 countries just in my department. And I was leading this team in all these different places. And I was so resentful and so mean because nobody was working as hard as I thought they should. And nobody did things like I would do them. And I, again, with that unconscious incompetence, in my mind, everybody should operate the same. Everybody should work the same. And I started emulating some of the leadership that I had admired. Now, I'm mentioning all this because I was in a male dominated world where I'm not a man, so I'm trying to lead like a man, and I'm not a man. And the men that I worked with at this point, two of them had been hospitalized, and one passed away about 3 years ago. But when I was working with him, terrible eating habits. Everybody, it was a badge of honor to not sleep.
Yeah.
It was a badge of honor to drink heavily.
Yep.
It was a badge of honor to, if you ate lunch, because eating lunch was like, hit or miss.
Too much time away.
Yeah, exactly. So don't eat lunch, but if you do, eat complete garbage, right? So like eat a hamburger. If you get a salad, you're kind of like ostracized for this. And it's back to what you were saying earlier, the hindsight. I see it, but back then I was just like, in this mode, I'm going to be how these people are. I'm going to do things the way that they do them. And in 2015, I had my second child. So I was 33 at this point. So 3 years had passed. And I am just not a great leader, but I have not admitted to myself that I wasn't a good leader. And one day I came back from maternity leave. My team was falling apart. I was putting people on performance improvement plans. Like, it was quite a disaster. And I just shut my office door, sat down in front of my computer, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to write out my dream employee list. And so I open up a Word doc and I start writing, they will never be late. They will never, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, if this is a dream employee, why am I writing things I don't want them to do, right? It should be what I want.
Yep.
Which actually is a lot harder when you think about it. I think all of us are really great at talking about what we don't want. But when we have to flip the script and say, okay, well, then what do you want? It becomes a lot harder. So I deleted everything out, sat there for a minute, and then I was like, all right. So I just started writing. I wrote, what conversations we would have, how we would interact, how they would be like, there aren't enough hours in the day, and how excited they were about projects, and how when I got things back from them, they would have done what I asked and taken it 2 to 3 steps forward. They would challenge me. They would make me grow. Yeah. They would help me. So I write this out. It ends up being 2 pages. I am so proud of this for about 2.5 seconds. And then it hits me like a ton of bricks. If these people show up, am I the right person to lead them? And the answer was no. And I knew it was. I knew the answer was no. And I knew in that moment that everything I was just telling you while I was trying to emulate everyone around me, their habits, their management style, like the work-life balance, lack thereof. I was trying to be all these things that I knew in my heart were not right. They weren't me, and they weren't how I felt about people, how I felt about my family. Everything I was doing was in direct opposition to who I truly was and who I was put here to be.
Yep.
And I felt like by writing this document, it was almost like my chance to have a permission slip. Do it your way. Don't ask for anything, just do it. And what's really interesting about that story was 2 months go by, a month and a half actually, and 3 different people showed up in my path, crossing paths, that ended up being those dream employees that I was able to hire.
Wow.
People on my team that ended up leaving for various reasons. 1, it was a toxic environment. I own that. It really was. 2, putting people on performance improvement plans and pushing them out. And 1 person I actually had to fire. But it made room for this dream team that showed up at my door as soon as I asked for it.
Right.
As soon as I said very clearly what I wanted, it showed up for me. So then I was like, all right, if this is showing up for me, then I have to do my part too. And so I decided I'm going to actually relaunch this team. I told you we're a team of 25 people in 3 countries. And I said, all right, it was like January 1st, around that time, this time of year. And I said, we are going to all onboard. So I know many of you are not new, but we have new people coming in, and we're going to all onboard as if we've never worked together before. And I created a week of onboarding for us, and we went through what I was committed to, what each of them were tasked with, what their gifts and talents were, why they were a part of the team. And then I had every department in the organization come for like 15-20 minutes. I made it very casual, and I had them say, you know, what they do in the organization, what my team does that pisses them off. So what would be good communication with my team? Nobody's owning, like nobody cares at this point, because the people that were really causing that weren't a part of that anymore.
Right.
And one of my employees that had been there the longest after that week was like, Emily, this was excellent. Like, this is, I wish I'd had this from the beginning. Yeah. And so we also instituted, because I know that working out is really important, and we were in a building that we had a gym downstairs. And so,
wow.
yeah, like, hello, so simple, right? And it had showers. Like, this was such a great facility. And I had on-demand workout access. So I was like, okay, a couple days a week at lunch, we're all going to go downstairs and we're going to work out together. And so we had this group of us that went down and worked out, and, you know, we would make fun of each other in like a real fun way, but we made it part of who we were. And then I also talked to them about their families and how family is first, and how I'm going to leave early some days to be with my kids, and I'm going to do these things, and I want you to do it too.
Yeah.
And so also when we would go to lunch and things like that, it was healthier options. I wasn't afraid to eat a certain way because I was worried it would like offend someone. So within 90 days of this organization, this new way of leading, we were the most productive team in the company. And those very people were like, you should be a life coach. And I was like, that's not a real thing. Like, I have a degree I have 2 business degrees. I have a master's in business, an MBA, and then I also have an undergrad in business. That's not real. But enough of them said it enough times that I was like, you know what, I should look into something. So I ended up getting board certified through the Robbins Madonna's organization, the Tony Robbins organization. And I will tell you, what was really fun about that was it was really like a fish finding water. In the professional world, I knew processes,
right,
and I knew people, but this was like next level thinking with people and really connecting to them. And so at that point, I just got bored. I had been in the corporate world for a while, and there was this calling of, you need to leave this and help 100 people outside of the organization. Because, by the way, my team was asking me to go to other people in the organization. They were bringing people to me. Hey, she'll coach you. She'll give you books to read. She'll tell you, you know, your 90-day plan of how to get promoted and all these things. And so we had a layoff actually at work. And I guess I was thinking about it. It was in the back of my mind, and I was like, that's ridiculous. It's a great paycheck. It's safe, blah, blah, blah. All the garbage we say to ourselves. And my office was made of glass. I knew we were going to have a layoff because I was in upper management. And I had my door shut, and the man that sat in the cube right in front of me, not somebody on my team, but sat right in front of me, was tapped on the shoulder at 8 a.m. and taken downstairs and never came back. And I stared at that empty cube for the rest of the day. And it was a Thursday. I will never forget this. And I wondered, where did he go? What did he do? It just tore me up inside to see how easy a business can pivot and just shed people and not care. And I knew we were going to have 2 days of layoffs. It was going to be Thursday and Friday. And nobody on my team was affected, so I thought I wouldn't be affected. But after that scenario, I was I couldn't, I was like, I can't go to work that day. So I actually took the day off, drank 2 bottles of wine that night. I'm 5 years sober now, but at the time I drank 2 bottles of wine. Do not recommend. Woke up feeling horrible, obviously.
Yeah.
Went in my backyard and prayed, help me. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I kid you not, I heard a small whisper, I've been waiting for you.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, so this is me. Like, I didn't have paper with me, but it was almost like, all right, I'm ready, right? Like, okay, what's next?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't work like that, right? But it was like, okay, now you're listening is kind of
Yeah.
the lesson that I got there, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, now we can start the game that
Mm-hmm.
is where you are supposed to be in life. So I realized in that moment, I was like, I'm supposed to help people and I want to be a part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
in the role that I was in, I felt like I was aiding and abetting like a situation that I just didn't want to be a part of. And so that was in 2017 when I left the corporate world. In 2020, I was featured in Forbes. I helped over 2,500 people in that time period. And I realized I was just getting started. And there were so many other things that I wanted to do. And what's interesting is every single person I talk to, I've had the opportunity of helping them change the narrative that just because this is how we've always seen it done
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean it has to continue.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've seen that movie, This Ends With Us. It's a
Yes.
book.
Yes.
Yes.
I just saw
Yeah.
it a month ago.
Yeah. And it's like heartbreaking, but at the
Yeah.
same time, right at the end when she's like, this ends with us.
Mm-hmm.
I watched that and I was like, I get to do that every day.
Mm-hmm.
I get to end this cycle of unhealthy work. I
Yeah.
mean, there's absolutely no reason for any of us to be staying at work super late, burning ourselves to the ground. I've never heard of somebody on their deathbed saying, I'm so glad that I worked like
Right.
that. I'm so glad
Right.
that I killed my body, killed friendships. I went through 2 marriages
Mm-hmm.
and my kids hate me. Like nobody says that on their deathbed.
Not worth it. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I just, this ends with us. This ends with me. And I am going to make sure of that. And at this point in my journey, I've been really helping an area of businesses that I'm so excited to help, and it's the home service industry. So
Oh.
I'm really working with a ton of roofers, auto body shops, mechanics, and I'm also helping a lot of other businesses as well, law firms and all of this.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really excited about the home service business because that industry, because I think it's so overlooked in terms of how bad these people are treated, owners,
Mm-hmm.
people that work there, the whole 9 yards. And it doesn't have to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
You can be successful and have a balanced life and give your beautiful gifts of service, however it really fits you. So that's just a little bit about me.
Yeah. No, I love that, and I love the. I'm kind of going back a little bit, but you had to go through a process, and I'm thinking specifically about when you were writing your perfect employee list, right? It was so fun to hear you talk about this unintentional process that you went to figure out where you needed to be, or to start
Yeah.
listening about where you needed to be. And it's really I find it fascinating that it's always a process, and we just have to move through it and keep going and just take from it what we can. So I just think that's so fascinating. um, so one of the things that I was curious about, because in talking about, and it's kind of the name of the show, but we're talking a lot about as entrepreneurs, or even as your home services providers, right? Those are long hours and hard work. I remember having my water heater changed, and they were in it's a 3 foot space where they're having to change this water heater, right? And they're in and out and in and out and in and out. I mean, it really hard, horrible, terrible work. I feel so bad for them, but you're right. I mean, and they were amazing people. And this company that we use is very much we're looking at this work and at this company in a very different manner that most home services company do. So you're coming in and you're helping do the same thing with these companies, but it is a lot of work. It's hard work, And it can create, whether you are the executive, the owner, or the worker, and sometimes we're all of those things, right? That's what I am. But it can create burnout. And so how do you approach, whether it's the executive or the executive with the team, um, eliminating or managing that kind of burnout, because it's freaking hard.
Oh, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the things that I will tell you definitively that I know is that if you are a business owner, you are the problem. So, I'm a business owner, I'm always the problem.
Yep.
And I will tell you that that is so freeing
Mm-hmm.
because you can change yourself
Mm-hmm.
so much easier than you can change anyone around you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I want to say that when I was in the corporate world, before I had my break and understanding, like, I need to change me, I read 26 different books trying to change everyone around me.
Yeah.
Like, ridiculous how
Yeah.
much listening I was not doing.
Right.
In terms of, like, well, I can't be the problem, it's got to be everyone else.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I work on with all business owners
Mm-hmm.
first. If you have someone on your team that's underperforming, how are you aiding and abetting that? How are you contributing to that?
Yeah.
You're either not training them right, not giving them the answers that you need, or guess what? You just hired the wrong person and you need to let them go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's really only those three.
Yeah.
There's no other reason. And when you take all that away, a lot of the business owners, because I say I can fix things, right? I can go in, I can fix your people, I can streamline your processes, and I can, streamline your software. We can get everything working right. But it's almost like an episode of Hoarders. You can clean a person's house, but if you don't change that inner dialogue in their head,
Yeah.
you're going to go back in 6 months and it'll be just the same. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to do, something that I'm fixing it and then you call me back and I have to help, untangle it again. And so I do a lot of work with the owners. I have to work with the owners first, because if I don't get them on board with I am the problem, then there's a lot of finger pointing and, like, this person's terrible and blah, blah, blah. And maybe they are, but we have to all own that we are a part of it. Yeah. And one of the things that I do as well is I actually create accountability both ways, because most streets are two ways. And accountability is two ways. So if you want your employees to do A, B, C, then you better be doing 1, 2, 3 to support that A, B, C.
Right.
And I've had owners push back and be like, "Ooh, I don't want to be accountable to that." Well, then they're never going to do these things.
Right.
So
yeah, it's interesting because I think there are parallels in what I do and what you do, and I think that's really obvious anyway. But when I'm working with people on health stuff, we have to work on mindset. We have to work on your past. We have to, and I'm not a therapist, right? So I can only go so far with this, but I always am making sure that they're working with someone who can help them through these things, because we have to have our team. We have to have our team to help us through these things. But if we don't address the mental and emotional aspect, or what else is going on in life, is there relationship issues, are there financial issues, are these things that are creating the stress, because stress is the number one problem, right? We can have external stress and internal stress. Disease is stress, family life is stress, and all of these things will just shred the body, right? Which in turn is what's it going to do? It's going to shred your business. It's going to shred your family life. It's going to have those downstream effects. I say downstream effects. It's really kind of a like you said, it goes both ways, right? Everything affects everything. It's just the way that it is, and so we can't. Just like we can't separate the gut and the brain. We can't separate our personal life, our family life, our business life, because everything affects everything. So all of that to be said, I don't even know where I was going with that, except for the fact that these I feel like a lot of times, so I'm bringing this back to maybe who I am as a business owner and a practitioner, but I say all of these things because I know them in my heart and in my mind, but then I look and I'm like, that's a lot. How do you do it all? And how do you wear all of the hats, and how do you then have all of this perfection, which I know we're not I never expect that, but that's how you want you that's what I hear in my own mind when I'm talking to myself. How do you do all of these things so well, and then you're working with your team members to help them work well too, so then they can help you work well. Anyway, I'm kind of going in circles a little bit, but it's a hard place to be until you can find somebody to help you sort through it.
It's so true. Yeah. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that all of us make, and I did as well, is that for some reason, especially as an owner, we feel like we can't tell people all the things.
Yeah.
Well, I can't tell them exactly what we're making. I can't tell them exactly how far in debt we are. I can't tell them, whatever. And, I went to Chick-fil-A not too long ago. This actually was like a really big post that I did on LinkedIn that blew my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I was I was sitting in the drive-thru. My kids love Chick-fil-A and they wanted Chick-fil-A. I was like, sure. So I pull up and I'm right at the window. And the Chick-fil-A that we have, it's not a window, it is a sliding door and people are walking in and out. Mm-hmm. Well, when I looked inside, because you can't help but see it because I was literally right in front of it, there was this giant digital board of all sorts of stats. And it was changing like every, 5 seconds or so, the stats were changing screens. And this was how many orders they'd had that day, how many they'd had that month, how many they'd had that year.
Oh, wow.
Were there any birthdays this month on the team? It was literally average food sale for that day, peak time for that week, that day. I mean, it was the entire business of that specific Chick-fil-A was on display for God and country.
Huh.
And what I loved about that, and what I posted, and I took the world's worst picture, and I'm telling you, I got so much love and information from people. There were comments, likes, and all of this because they were like, oh, it's so great. What I said was, this is the kind of transparency that all of us need to have. Mm-hmm. Because if you're this transparent with your employees, mm-hmm. all of us are so worried that they're either going to leave or they're going to ask for a raise. And I was witnessing in that moment that guess what they were doing? Showing up and serving.
Yeah.
And they were showing up and serving in a big way because they watched right there before their eyes mm-hmm. how their work mm-hmm. changed that business. And I was like, that's how we should all be.
Yeah.
Do not
I love
be concerned.
That. Yeah. That's really interesting. I've not ever seen that anywhere. So do you think it's just that location itself, or do you think that that's sort of they're doing that throughout?
I have a feeling they do it everywhere. Mm-hmm. I just think that where this particular screen was, mm-hmm. it just happened to be in my purview. Yeah. And I think all of them are usually like maybe in the back kitchen or mm-hmm. something like that. Mm-hmm. I'm almost positive that can't be the only Chick-fil-A that has that. I would think that that's how Chick-fil-A just runs.
Doing it, yeah.
But it just makes me think that one of the greatest things we can do is mm-hmm. connect with someone else. Because what I have to share with business owners all the time is, I know you think you're running this business, but you're not. Mm-hmm. Your team is running the business and you are leading them.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't be in the weeds. If you think of something, you need to connect with someone on your team so that they can actually do the legwork behind that, mm-hmm. so that they can actually mm-hmm. go manage the thing.
Yeah.
So fantastic when you have people that you can go to hat in hand and be like, things are not working right mm-hmm. and I don't know what to do. And they're like, oh my gosh, I thought of this and this and this. And I think where we get confused is that, again, our employees either are like, wow, we're rich, so I want to raise, or, oh my gosh, this business is falling apart, I've got to get out of here. Mm-hmm. You'd be shocked at how many people don't react that way. They just don't.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, how can I help?
Yeah.
How can I improve this? How can I be a part of the solution? They want to help.
Yeah.
And so I really think that part of it is connecting and not holding it in, because to your point, that stress, it stays there if you're not letting it out,
Right.
if you're not connecting with other people. And I'm a huge fan of professional help. Definitely go get professional help. Talk to everyone, you know, let it out and share. Sometimes just by saying it, because I want to change the word stress here to fear.
Yeah.
Because that's really what it is. I'm afraid of letting someone down. I'm afraid I'm going to go bankrupt. Yep. I'm afraid my wife's going to leave me. You know, I'm afraid that's stress. That stress is fear. So name it, because I will tell you right now, when you name it.
Uh-oh, hold on. I just lost your audio.
She's coming back right now.
She's coming back. Henry says you're coming back.
I can see.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know what happened, but he can predict the future. He's like, she's coming back right now.
That's awesome. Everybody needs a Henry, by the way.
Everybody does need a Henry. So jump back just a couple of sentences. We didn't miss much. What were you saying that we missed just before I said to stop?
Oh, let's see.
Sorry.
We were talking. Oh no, not at all. Not at all. We were talking about how fear, if you just name it, it usually loses its power. So just by sharing with somebody, I'm afraid the story. This is how I always say it. The story I'm telling myself is, I'm afraid that I'm going to miss this deadline. I'm afraid I'm going to blah, blah, blah. And 9 times out of 10, just saying it out loud, connecting with someone else, I'm like, that sounds really dumb. That's probably not actually going to happen. It's like letting it out of our heads really lowers the ability of that stress to really affect us, which I think is really, really, really wonderful.
It is wonderful. So let's take that and build on that. So other strategies that you have that you, when you're working with leaders to help, whether it's with the burnout or, you know, whatever your choice, with the burnout, with the fear, with connecting with their employees, their, you know, the people around them, not necessarily employees, but the people around them, to help move forward.
Most definitely. So I want to talk about, I think every book you read, every coach you hear is always like, add this into your life, add this, add that. Now I'm all about adding, but I like to think of our brains as like a Target parking lot at Christmas time. There's no more space, right?
Yeah.
No more space. And you might be circling that lot looking for a spot, and there's not one, and you're like, well, there's not going to be a Target trip today. But our brain is like that. There's only so much that we can hold at any given time. So one of the first things I do is I say, what are we going to let go of? What are we letting go of? And usually they're like, well, you know, there's just nothing we can let go of. And I'm like, oh yeah, there are plenty to let go of. Right? The first one is other people's opinions. And we talk about what opinions matter the most, because it's typically, well, my dad said this business would never work. So he's like holding on to this opinion of this, you know, dad that might not even be with us anymore, right? So holding on to other people's opinions, it's holding space and energy in our brains that we have to let go of. Another one is worries. We were just talking about a worry is something that you can take action on. If it's truly a worry, you can take action. I'm worried I'm going to pay this late. Well, go pay it. Go schedule the payment, right? So take out worry and replace it with action. And then let's remove assumptions. And assumptions is huge. This is where I see more breakthroughs with teams. So I ask, what are your assumptions of your team? Their abilities, how they're utilizing their time, what they think of you, all these things. And I want you to have one-on-ones with them this week, and I want you to ask them 7 questions. And I want to walk through those 7 questions with you, but I want you to ask them 7 questions. You will do no talking except for the 7 questions. So once you have moved through question 1, you don't go off on a tangent telling them things. You go right to question 2.
Not always easy.
Oh my gosh, they're like, this is so hard.
Yeah.
But this exercise alone changes the game for them, because all of a sudden, the stories that they have in their head, about 90% of them are wrong. And they find out in those one-on-ones with these 7 questions.
Yep.
And then they're like, give me more.
Yeah.
Because now most business owners think that money will solve everything, and they just don't. It just doesn't. It's not what people want. I mean, yes, don't get me wrong. You ask somebody and they will say, you know,
it's certainly helpful.
Yeah, exactly. But they actually want to be seen and to feel heard. And so the first question is, what's on your mind? That's it. What's on your mind? And they will tell you, you know, oh, my mom came over this past weekend. It's always something random. What's the real challenge for you here? 9 times out of 10, whatever the story is that they told you, it's on their mind for a reason, and there's some sort of challenge. And then they'll share with you what that is. And then you just say, what do you want? Now, you're going to sit for a while at this one, because most people have no idea what they want.
Yeah.
And then the next one is, and what else? And that is actually a question. And what else? The reason is because they're going to sit there and they're going to be like, you know, I just want some more time off. I just haven't had enough time. When you say, and what else, you will be blown away at how much more they share. It's like all of a sudden you peel back the onion and they're like, well, my dad was just diagnosed with cancer. Or I did this with one of my employees, and they were like, well, I haven't shared it with anybody yet, but I'm going through a divorce. And it made so much sense from all the issues that I've had with this specific person. And rather than, you know, what's going on, and being like rude with this person, I was able to actually isolate the issue. And then question 5 is, how can I help? So only 5, you are 5 questions in before you insert yourself, and you will notice that you are not saying, oh my gosh, let me give you time off, let me do this, let me do that. Ask them what they need. Do not insert any sort of thoughts that you have. And then you say, if you're saying yes to this, what are you saying no to? This goes back to that parking lot, right? You only have so much space.
Yep.
You gotta remove a car for one to be parked, so you gotta get rid of something. And it's funny because when I'm reading these, when I read them to business owners, they're like, what? Why? I don't even know how that would come up. And I said, just wait, just ask the question and they will fill in the blank. And with this person that I was actually having issues with, and she mentioned that she was getting divorced. I said, how can I help? And she was like, honestly, you're giving me so much help, because she listed the 3 things that I was giving her on a weekly basis that were supporting her, and that she felt like she was letting me down. And she said, really, if I just follow this, then I'll be good. So then, if you're saying yes to this, then what are you saying no to? And she just opened up with, you know, I'm trying to do everything in one day. I need to say yes to one thing a day, so that the next day is for something else. So I'm saying yes to one thing and no to everything else on Monday, and then Tuesday. And she was coaching herself, which is fascinating to me. And then the last question is, what did you find the most useful or valuable from this conversation? Why this question is so important, 2 reasons. One is it's really good for you to hear, because 9 times out of 10, they're going to be like, it just felt good that you listened, that there was just a kind ear to listen. But what's also good is that they typically do a little bit of a summary. You know, it was so helpful that you were sharing this and this and this with me. You didn't actually share anything, they did all. They are self-coaching, summarizing what they learned, which will get embedded in their mind and will be remembered better. And because this conversation will be fairly emotional, they always are. Again, you're not making it emotional. It's just how people are. They're going to remember it better because our emotional memories, anything that's emotionally charged, we feel loved, we feel seen, it was very sad. Any of those actually stay in our brains longer. Our brain is like, ooh, that was good. We're going to hold on to that and remember it and review it many, many times. And so when you go through this, you're laying the foundation for this ends now, meaning everything that we've done to this point, that's over. I trust you, you trust me. Let's do this together.
Yeah.
And everyone's energy changes. People lose weight. Most of the business owners I work with, I do not mention it. And all of a sudden, the next time I see them, they're 15 pounds lighter. And I'm like, what just happened? Well, yeah, well, I had time. So I started golfing again. And I'm walking with my wife. And I'm like, exactly. Because you removed the things that were holding you back, that fear and that stress. You connected with other people. You stopped hiding your emotions. And you built trust with your team. It's that simple.
Well, and I can't help but to throw in there that if you're reducing stress, you're reducing the inflammatory response, you allow your body to move from sympathetic into parasympathetic, right? And the inflammation, that in and of itself is going to help with if there is an issue with weight or, you know, other health issues will help to manage those better, right? It's, whether it may be the answer, it may be part of the answer, but it again, going back to, it flows throughout everything that we're doing. It flows throughout. That's so good, and I love talking about this. And maybe next time we should just schedule 2 hours because I mean, we still have some time now. Yeah, not much, but it's, you know, when I'm talking to you, of course, I'm thinking of my own life, as we all would, and as anybody out there is doing. You think about, okay, what am I doing in my own business? What am I doing with my own team? And I'm so used to, I'll say this for myself now, I'm so used to doing everything literally by myself. Now, as I'm collaborating with other clinics, I do have teams. And I'm learning that I'm not by myself, and I need to stop acting like I'm by myself.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I believe that's why your word is listen. Because if you listen, all of a sudden you hear what's around you.
Right.
You hear that this person's actually really good at this thing that you've been doing and you could do.
Yeah.
I think most business owners have, like, I'm sure you've heard of death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Yeah.
I call it death by 1,000. That'll just take me 5 minutes.
Oh
right?
my goodness, yes. Yes.
And then we just do it, which fine, do it. That's great. But why don't you give it to somebody else that's actually going to do it better than you? They're going to think through it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And it's just off your plate, and you can focus on what's really great for your business, which is, I like to think of business owners as on a ship, and they're in the crow's nest. They're up at the top, not on the ground, not actually steering the boat. I don't believe they're steering the boat. I don't believe that they're, you know, mopping the deck or anything. They're at the top looking way ahead and saying, don't go that way. We're going to go over here.
Yeah. Fully agree. I have a whole list of stuff here that we haven't even gotten into, but let's do this. Let's talk a little bit, because we've got you know, about 6 minutes, and I want to make sure that people know where to find you and how to find you. But I want to dig in a little bit. You know, when you talk about, so we've kind of been talking about wellness, but I know that's a part of your conversation as you're talking with entrepreneurs and business owners and the executives and that kind of thing. How do you, maybe that's the question, is how do you help them incorporate the wellness into their lives when so many are still that male dominated, which is not a bad thing. I love men, right? But there is sort of that, what has been that male dominated you work, you don't eat lunch, you go, have cocktails after work, all of that thing. How do you start to bring in, okay, let's maybe just decrease that a little bit and start to understand that if you're not having the 5 cocktails, maybe you have one, that life could be a little bit easier, the little things like that.
So I actually appeal to what it is they want.
Okay, yeah.
And what they want is faster, more decisive decision making, and more innovation and creativity. And if you are eating right and exercising, guess what comes first? Innovation, creativity. You have all the energy in the world, all these amazing ideas. I don't know about you, but when I exercise, I have the best ideas. I'm like, oh, let me think about this. In fact, one of my clients laughs at me because I have a walking desk. I'm not on it right now, but but I love it because I will watch a training while I'm walking or something. Like I learned a lot of technical systems and things, so I always need to get my feet wet and like, what is this? Best ideas ever because I'm walking while I'm doing it. And so I will randomly say, let's get outside. Let's, not now, it's very cold.
Yeah.
But one of the things I'll say is like, go lift weights for 30 minutes. Go to your gym, because they all have gym memberships that they're not using. If you want better ideas, you just work out for 30 minutes and they'll show up for you. And then if you want even more ideas, then let's eat some healthier stuff, because you're going to get more decisive, you're going to think quicker, you're going to be sharper. A lot of the brain fog that all of us suffer from, I know you know this, it's because we're eating garbage.
Right.
And when we actually eat really healthy things for ourselves, all of that goes away. So when I mention that they can be more productive and that they'll be more innovative and creative, they're like, oh, I'm in. So
it's so smart, and it makes so much sense. I want to bring in the why a little bit, because this is the stuff that, people are like, yeah, I know I'm supposed to eat well. I know I'm supposed to eat my greens. I don't like greens. I know I'm supposed to do this, but I think so often if we don't really dig in, for me anyway, this is me. I like details. I want to know the answers. I want to understand. I want to understand myself, and then understand as much as I can. But we are working on, so many of us, such severe nutrient deficiency that our brain just doesn't work. And we may be eating, but we're not eating either the right things, or we think we're eating the right things and they're not, or we have body function systems, GI stuff, that is not allowing us to absorb nutrients. So there's so many things, which is sort of where I come in, to analyze what is it, even if you're eating, or even if you're eating well, why are you still not functioning well? And let's determine what that is. But going back to the no rest, the eating out all the time, the cocktails, all of these things will just make us fuzzy. All of these things are going to make us nutrient deficient. All of these things are going to make us inflamed. And when you go back to another thing that you said is, get to the gym. I would say another thing is go sit still, right? And that's where I find that I get the downloads, and I don't do it as often as I should, especially when it's cold outside, because I like to go outside and be still and be in the sun. But that's when I try to listen, is that meditation time and listening and getting the downloads that way. So it's not that I'm not trying to add to the list, but I think it is just switching some things out, and having that understanding that we don't have to go, because that still time is the time that might be most effective for us, right? Or that gym time might be the most effective for us.
I couldn't agree more. I'm a huge proponent of meditation, and it's something that I try to do every single day as well. I do give an idea of like 3 minutes. Try 3 minutes.
Yes, exactly. Just sit still.
And it feels long the first time you do it. But then when you get into it, you're right. I always tell them, you are on a speeding train. If you look outside right now, it is a mishmash of color.
Yeah.
if that train slows down, you will see trees and leaves and grass, and maybe there's a cow and all these things. That's what you're missing by going 90 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And so slow down and just see what's in front of you, which actually circles back perfectly to what we were talking about at the beginning and why gratitude matters so much, to be able to see what's around us that we already have.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful thing to just to sit. Well, it's also great to sit and be present and be grateful for what you have. Be grateful for what has brought you to this place now. You know, we don't want to sit and sit in the past, but we want to know that we're taking it in and learning from the past. And then having the awareness there's so much to learn, which is exciting. It don't want it to feel daunting. It's so exciting to know what's next, what comes next week, what's going to happen January 1st of 2026. What is this year going to look like? It's a really cool, exciting, scary, a little bit thing. But you're like, okay, I'm ready for it. Let's jump in. But you have to have nutrition, you have to have a good mental mindset, you have to have all of these things so the fear doesn't take over, because it can.
Well, and it's I don't know if you've ever heard this, forget everything and run. Or
and I haven't heard
everything. Yeah, you could forget everything and run, or you can face everything and rise. And when you do that, and also in meditations, I've done some pretty powerful meditations where I've healed from past things, because I've really thought about it, and I've really healed myself, which I think is really special, that we get that opportunity when we're in stillness to go back and just think, okay, that happened, and yet I'm still here, and a lot of people, as you know, have a lot of undealt with trauma.
Oh yeah. I was blown away when I first started practicing 10 years ago. I do a really time-consuming, comprehensive intake, and the amount of trauma that I first saw, and then of course continue to see, especially as I move into the more and more complicated cases. I mean, I feel so blessed, because we all have our kind of our little traumas, I think, but the things that people go through is mind-blowing. And you're right, to find someone who can help us through that, or to find the meditation that can help us through that, to go deep and to let go, which is really hard to do, because this stuff sits in the tissues, right? It sits in the tissues. It creates more stress, it creates more inflammation, it creates more disease. So the mental and emotional becomes the physical.
It totally is. I don't know if you've ever read Michael Singer's The Untethered Soul.
Yeah.
But he talks about how everything must pass through. If you hold on to anything, it will kill you. Yeah. It will kill you.
Yeah.
And when he has some really great guided meditations as well in this letting go. And by the way, you can hold on to things that you shouldn't have, like that aren't trauma, that are like, your child growing up, that you've got to let them grow up, and you've got to let that pass through. You can't hold on to that. And so anyway, it always makes me think we need to process. We have to process in order to grow and change and stop the cycle, because it will continue if we don't.
Yeah. So is there anything, because there's so much that we could continue to talk about, but is there anything that we haven't hit on that you want to make sure that we chat about?
The one thing that I want whoever is listening that's an owner, whether you own a teeny tiny business or a giant behemoth business, you are a leader. You are somebody, you are in the right position. I'm here to tell you that I have never met someone that's running something and I'm like, you should not be doing this.
Yeah.
What I find though is that each of us have, just like people, our own specific gifts and pitfalls. And so I've actually designed an assessment for people to take that can actually give them both. So you will see the good sides of your leadership capabilities and style, and also the pitfalls. And I give you an action plan of how to involve those around you so that they can help you mitigate those things. One of the things I recommend is you take this assessment and share it with your team. Share it in a meeting, share it, over your Slack channel or something like that. Hey guys, I took this and these are my pitfalls. It's rare that owners share their pitfalls. It shouldn't be, but it's rare.
Yeah.
If you start conversations that way, you'll be amazed at how your team is like on board, and they will quietly say, you do that. So
it's hard. It can be hard for us to look at ourselves in, I don't want to say negative because we don't want to speak negatively, but the pitfalls. We all have them, and it's just an area of growth, right?
And this is my take on it. I believe that you have certain gifts and I have certain gifts. I call them my divinity, your divinity. In the Bible, they mention the word I am, I don't know how many times, right?
Yep.
Because we were made in the image of the Creator. And if that's the case, then you have a little bit of divinity in you and I have a little bit in me. But I think what we're supposed to do is find that divinity, share it, and connect with the people that have different divinity than ourselves. And so those flaws that you have are a connector piece to someone else that's their strength.
I love that.
So it's just an ability to connect.
Yeah, I love that. It's a piece of the puzzle. I mean, it's kind of just like building a big puzzle. Anyway, amazing.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly. Well, and people can access that at Emily Hawkins, the number 4, the letter U.com / oh my gosh, type. Sorry about that. TYEE. I'm like blanked on it.
Yeah. It happens. Well, what we'll do is we will share that link in all of the places. So it will be in all the comments in the social medias. It'll be on YouTube. It'll be on all the podcast sites where we have the description. So you'll be able to find it. Hopefully just about anywhere, but we will share that for sure. And I'm going to do it. I saw it when I was kind of preparing for the show, and I just didn't. It's where sometimes I fail. I should have done it before the show, and I just didn't, but I will because I'm super curious about it. So thank you for that. I think that's a really, really great resource.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. It was so kind of you, and I've truly enjoyed our conversation.
Good. Me too. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. We will definitely do it again. I do want to keep in touch, so this was fun. If you want to reach out to Emily, do so. I have all of these ideas on people that I need to introduce you to.
Awesome.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Yeah. So anyway, reach out to her. This is such good stuff. Of course, you can find me, tastelifenutrition.com. We're always here streaming live on KUHS Denver.com every Thursday, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. You can go to my website, fill out a free assessment, and we'll chat a little bit, see how I might be able to help you, or see if I know somebody who might be able to help you better, because my goal really is to be a resource and try to do my best to serve the best I can. So let me know how I can help. Thank you, Emily, again. So good to see you again. And if you'll hang on with me here just a second, but yeah, we'll have you on again. It's such a really important topic to talk about. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you later. See you next week.